we would prep before the mission, so that would take 45 minutes, and then we would go out on mission for 12 hours, where we're just driving these routes, talking to local population, trying to figure out where the bad guys are, try to draw fire, try to get into a fist fight, right? Then we would come home and we would download. If we had EPWs or prisoners of war, we would have to take those up to Baghdad. That might be another 2 or 3 hours.
Luke, give us an
Um,
understanding so percentage wise or like within a month, how often are you in a firefight?
yeah, so percentage wise, I would say it's pretty high. We were there for a while. We were hitting an IED just about every other day. So about 50% of the time we rolled out. I would say even higher than that in some cases. But about 50% of the time we'd either come across or get hit by an IED. When you have such a heavy presence, they're not allowed to the time to install these bigger IEDs, right? Like say you have a 500-pound bomb and you hook an IED up to it, they're not going to have time to dig it and get everything hidden. So we were hitting a lot of these smaller mortar IEDs, right? So they would use these little 82 millimeter mortar rounds, and they did not have very much effect against up armored vehicles.
Okay.
They moved on to artillery rounds.
So you
So
would, when you say hit, because I see like, again, watching videos, I would see where they would have something scanning for IEDs. Are you saying you were actually rolling over them and they were blowing up?
yep, yep. So there's several different types of IEDs. We would oftentimes roll next to an IED. These IEDs were pointed towards us, and they would either call a certain number on a cell phone, and it would trigger it, or they would use a walkie-talkie. When they press the button, it would trigger it. And then in other cases, we had pressure plates where we would drive over a pressure plate, and it makes contact,
Yeah.
basically breaks the circuit and sets the IED off. And
That's
then
kind of like when I think someone like me who's not in the military, that's what I think of, the pressure plate one.
right, yeah, they're not actually. There are a lot of them, but the majority of them are what we call command detonate. So it has a actual small copper wire that runs from the IED fuse all the way to a device that they can just click, and it sets it off.
Gotcha.
They eventually moved on to indirect detonate, where they'd use a walkie-talkie or a cell phone or something like that, and just they would put the receiver into the fuse, and when it made connection, it would set the IED off. Yeah.
Got it. So you're dealing with the IEDs every other day pretty much. And then how often are you clearing, like I don't know if I'm using the right terminology, but clearing a building, how often does that happen?
So on my second tour, and sometimes as I've gotten older, I've started to kind of melt the two into each other. Um, but on our second tour, I don't recall clearing too many houses on our second tour. I remember firefights. I remember us getting into some fist fights with some guys out there. I mean firefights with some guys out there a couple different times. I don't remember so much the room clearing on my second tour. It could have happened just as much. But I do know on our first tour, there was quite a bit going on there, especially as we were doing cordon and search. Yeah.